Welcome to Coffee to Go, where we center ourselves in the scriptures, seasons, and holy days of the Christian tradition. I'm Karen Peter, here with Blake Smith, and we welcome you on the journey. So today is the first Sunday of the Lenten season, and Lent is the 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter, not counting Sundays. Sundays are exempt because we always praise and worship and give glory during our Sunday worship events. But during Lent, we center our attention on Jesus as we remember his life and ministry. And Lent provides a means for us to also kind of sharpen our focus on our own lives in relationship to Jesus, or maybe our own lives in relationship to how we choose to follow and be a disciple. And the Lenten season encourages us to turn away from whatever is distracting or blocks our own commitment to discipleship. So this Lenten season, I think Blake and I would both hope that this season of Lent helps us walk with Jesus as he turns his face toward Jerusalem and the cross. So this week, where are we with Jesus this week? We talked a few weeks ago about how Matthew kind of frames the momentous happenings in Matthew's gospel on a mountain to kind of connect to Moses. And so here Matthew's doing a similar thing, but he sets this part of the gospel in the wilderness. And the wilderness brings to mind Israelites wandering in the wilderness, but also it's a place to practice, as one commentary said, to practice aloneness, to fast and pray and discern who you are and to whom you belong. And so we watch today as Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness. So with that giant opening, Blake, let's hear our scripture today.
So much symbolism to even get started with.
I know.
All right. So we're going to read today from the 4th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew, and the 1st through the 11th verse, often referred to as the temptation of Jesus. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tested by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterward he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again, it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, "All these I will give you, if you will fall down and worship me." Then Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. So why does this matter? Well, before we get into that, let's talk about some might say the three people, the devil, the tempter, and Satan.
Yes.
Satan
Which could all be aspects of our own ego.
Absolutely. We have these, and these scriptures are used to refer to and defend the presence of a physical being, Satan, often in our culture shown as a little red man with a pitchfork and horns and all of that kind of thing. I would just say, for more on Satan, you might check out episode 569, Percolating on Faith, with Tony and Charmaine Chavalis-Smith, to see a little bit more about what Satan means and how that came about and how we understand it in Community of Christ. But I think it would be fair to say that, and we have open theology, so we have people on a spectrum, but in general, we as Community of Christ do not hold to a physical being, but that comes, as you've mentioned, Karen, through our own ego and through the presence of what we might refer to as evil in the world, but not through a being.
So there's a really good book I can recommend if
Yeah.
somebody really wants to check this out. And it's called The Quest for the Historical Satan, which people see you reading that book on an airplane and they probably do not want to talk to you. But that's the name of the book, The Quest for the Historical Satan. I believe you can get it as an ebook. I'm looking now to make sure. Yeah, you can get it as an ebook. And it's written by Miguel A. de la Torre, Torre, de la Torre. So check that out. It's actually really good. And I've used it in a lot of different teachings where people have asked me questions about the devil or Satan in scripture. So there you go.
And I can attest to that because you recommended it to me and I got it and read it. So yeah,
Yeah,
good book.
it's
Good,
really
good
good.
book. So back to the text.
Okay.
And one of the things, we talk about 40 days of fasting, and we don't know that that was a literal 40 days. In the biblical text, 40 usually means just a really long time. Uh, so whether or not it's 40, I don't think has actually 40 has anything significant to relate to the story. But it was a long time. And to go that long fasting, he was famished and weakened. Imagine, what condition we would be in had we fasted for that long. So he was probably not at his best, as sometimes we are not when temptation comes before us. It's in our weakened state. For me, it is, I have to stay out of the kitchen when I'm in a down mood because I comfort eat. And I can have pretty good willpower when things are good. I can go, sometimes I'll work through the whole day and forget I didn't even have lunch. And then other days I can't stay out of the kitchen because I just need to stop and get something to eat. So for me, I imagine that being kind of the situation that Jesus was in, just in a weakened state. And when your walls are down, when your defenses are down, the temptations come.
I think there's also this kind of, how I always, it's like, let's talk about what it really was like, right? If Jesus
Yeah,
is fully human, fully divine, there's
yeah,
this thing. If you're at your best and there's something that tempts you, you just turn and walk away, right? You just
yeah,
turn and go the other direction. It's like, nope, not going there. But if you're not at your best, then you're willing to look at that temptation a little while, even though you might then turn and walk away. But you actually hear it out, right? Yes, Karen, you can have that second Diet Coke, whatever it may be that you're trying to avoid. You listen. And I can see this here with Jesus not at his best, where he'd actually listen to what the temptations are. Whereas at his best, he just turns and goes the other way, right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we have those times where it's like, well, let's see. If I do this, this is going to happen. Well, for me, so I say eating gluten. I have a gluten allergy, right? And so, but I don't have celiac. So
Mhm.
I can rationalize at times, well, how bad could one deep dish pizza in Chicago be, right?
Yeah.
How long am I willing to be sick for this? Is it worth it? So those are my weakened states. So
I think in Chicago, deep dish pizza is a theological choice, I think.
absolutely, absolutely. So, but Jesus' time in the wilderness has been a time of preparation.
Mhm.
He knew what he was about. He knew what was ahead for him. He knew who he was, and he knew to whom he belonged. And even in his famished state, he was strong in resisting this misuse of scripture. You hear in the text, it is written, and he kind of comes back and says, well, it's also written.
Mhm.
So, and he's not going to allow that to be used to justify greed and complacency and power. Ultimately, those are key pieces that we can pick up here. Now, in Jesus' human state, did he pause a minute and think about it and then come up with his answer because he really knew what he was about? Uh, don't know. But in the end, ultimately, he didn't allow that to happen. He has to make choices in the wilderness. And theologian Miguel suggests that when we're faced with choices, we can look to Jesus and ask ourselves, what did Jesus refuse? I mean, what was really at stake in the
Mm-hmm.
choice? So he refused power and greed and complacency and selfishness. And what did he embrace? Well, he embraced selflessness and generosity and compassion and healing.
Yeah.
And that's a message to us as his followers as to the things that the choices that lie before us. So,
Well, I think it's really important to go back to what you said earlier, where he was resisting the misuse of scripture to justify these things.
yeah.
And we hear that today in our
Oh my gosh.
US culture. We hear scripture being misused to justify the very things that Jesus refused.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of that going on. Um, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear. And typically the folks who are doing that are not open to conversation about it.
Yeah.
They have decided. So some questions we might ask ourselves this week are number one, am I prepared to speak up when someone misuses scripture to marginalize others or to promote Christian nationalism or rationalize hatred or greed or power over others? Because it does happen. Uh, Another question, do I need some time in the wilderness? Do I need to practice aloneness so that I can rediscover who I am and to whom I belong? Maybe not 40 days, but even 40 minutes would be a good thing from time to time. And finally, how do I determine my path when I'm making choices? What is it that drives my choices? So,
Yeah. What do I refuse and what do I embrace?
yeah.
Mm. So this week, gosh, that's such a good question. Maybe we should just live with that. But um, and thinking about what do I refuse and what do I embrace and make a list and see this week if you can live with that list. That would be an excellent way to experience it. Another way would be that in the commentaries, one of the writers made a connection between Jesus not turning the stone to bread to ease his own hunger, and yet later he feeds 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread. And that's great. But I would add that because Jesus was famished, he understood hunger. And that's why he fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread. The disciples weren't they were going to send all the people away. But Jesus understood hunger. Jesus understood temptation. Jesus understood some of the things that that we face and that he faced there in the wilderness.
That's Karen,
Yeah.
that is such a good point that I hope that we all hear, all of our myself included, um, that he understood. And often we don't understand the oppression, and that's why we can walk away.
Yeah.
So finding ways to get a deeper understanding is really important. Anyway, that's
Yeah,
so key.
absolutely. Well, so this week, maybe we can experience hunger a bit and then turn around and feed the hungry. So, first thing, find a little stone and put it in your pocket each day. This is your reminder, your touchstone, if you will. And it's your reminder to skip a meal or a regular snack time each day this week. So, when you're hungry, instead of eating, offer some good words out into the cosmos, whether it's a blessing or a prayer or just thoughts, just send it out there. Something like, may the hungry be fed. Every time you touch that stone, it reminds you to skip eating for a meal this week and send that out into the cosmos. May the hungry be fed. And then finally, discuss with your own household. If you live with a family, if you live with a friend, if you live alone, whoever your household is, have a plan of your annual monetary donation that you're going to offer to your local food bank or to a shelter, or if you're Community of Christ, to abolish poverty and suffering. But make an annual plan this week on how you're going to address the poverty and suffering and the hunger that comes with it. I think that'd be a great way to kind of put this scripture into a different context this week.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, our blessing today comes from Alberto Rios. Our river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it, and we have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn and the pages too. But we read this book anyway, over and over again. Giving is, first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together we made something greater from the difference. Well, thanks for joining us here at Coffee to Go. We invite you, as always, to join us next time for the next part of our journey through the liturgical seasons and holy days of the Christian tradition.